What is racism?
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 What are the words that come to mind?
It's any action that enforces a system that's currently in place.
You see it, you feel it.
Racism is like when people treat other people differently.
I think it's a system. I don't think that anyone is born feeling like they're superior to another.
It could be, looked at funny. It could be certain things people say. They may use racist slurs. I've been called racist slurs.
New York City, Washington Square Park.
Color does not attack color. Hate and prejudice are unnatural because you are not born with it, you are born into it.
The poet and street artist known simply as Sir Shadow.
Hating with someone else's eyes while you walk around blind.
This is his ode to Timothy Caughman.
I warn those who hate and think negative.
Caughman, 66 years old, was stabbed to death in Midtown. Police say James Jackson did it in cold blood because he hated black people.
Stop the revolution and seek the peace within. Because you're not up against a man, you're up against a state of mind, yours.
A state of mind programmed over centuries.
When you talk about the idea of seeds, seeds are planted. And when they're nurtured, they grow.
Dr. Akil Khalfani is director of Essex County College's Africana Institute.
I think what we're seeing today in the United States is that you see some seeds that took a long time to germinate, right? That the seeds were planted, but there weren't the right conditions for them to grow. But now the conditions have changed, and so that the ideas of race and racism, the ideas of exclusion are emerging.
Exclusion, control, power.
When we talk about racism, we have to talk about power. Racism is the power of one group to affect the life chances of another group.
The transatlantic slave trade.
You have elements of discrimination and tribal differentiation and ethnic differentiation and conflict before, but the idea of race and racism is a new thing, and it plays itself out on the back of chattel slavery.
And it's that structure that was set up during that time of chattel slavery that really created a lot of the definitions and beliefs of racism that we have and live with today.
Right. Most scholars trace the development of an organized category of racial difference to the expansion of Europe and the growth of capitalism beginning about 500 years ago.
Nina Glick-Schiller is Anthropological Theory Chair of New York Academy of Sciences.
Race is very much about trying to justify, explain, and maintain power by creating differences between people that aren't based on science.
The seeds of what we now think of as racial discrimination embedded in capitalism, planted with sugar.
The early sources of profit, which was sugar. So the history of sugar, the sweetness we love, is very much tied in with violence, bloodshed, death, and slavery. They needed a justification, and so they started to develop a concept of difference based on some physical traits they could see.
Hitler and the Nazis built on this model, the Holocaust.
The Nazis claimed to be using race science. They said the Jews were racially different and inferior.
Slavery itself dates back to the earliest civilizations, Greeks and Romans, Egypt, the temples and the pharaohs, often referred to as slavery in antiquity. But the Atlantic slave trade was different.
The building of the United States was, because we came from all over, wasn't around like the British race or the German race. It was around whiteness. So to have whiteness, you have to have a blackness. And so white and black come as categories that create each other.
The bedrock of the social system we live with today.
We're all holding the same match. Only a few of us can see that it's burning. If we don't all agree that it's burning, none of us can let go, so that we're all going to get burned.
You are overlooking the problem. Prejudice is like hunger.
Remember his words from the beginning. Maybe they do ring true. You are not born with it, he wrote, but born into it.
No one is above or below. That's why the Creator gave us all the same color shadow.
Dan Bowens, Fox 5 News.